So my name is Maeve de France. I've been working for CartONG as staff for 4 years. Before that I was a volunteer for 5 years, because CartONG is an association where there are both staff and volunteers. So CartONG is an organization that was founded in 2006. We're based in Chambéry in the French Alps, and we're what we call a humanitarian to humanitarian organization, which means that we support, as an NGO ourselves, other NGOs and international organizations in what we call information management. So how to collect data, how to process it, analyze it, and disseminate it in the most effective way possible. CartONG was created by 2 humanitarians who were actually working for an international organization, and there was such a high turnover of staff that that organization actually had difficulty having institutional memory on information management. So they decided to create CartONG to help ensure that institutional memory, which can seem a bit surprising. And beyond that, to make sure that there was a pool of expertise on these subjects that all NGOs could call upon for their needs. So CartONG is organized in 3 different poles. First of all, our biggest pole, the GIS pole, has 2 different sections, the mapping section and the open data section. So the mapping section are in charge of all of the maps that we produce for our partners. So it can correspond to a few hundred maps every year. They can be security maps of a situation in the field, or logistical maps understanding how long it takes from a place A to place B. Then the open data section, they're more in charge of how to collect and share data throughout the sector more easily by using open platforms such as OpenStreetMap. So we have a lot of projects around OpenStreetMap. Then we have a second pole that is our web development pole, whose aim is to develop mostly web maps, so online maps that help NGOs actually look and explore their data in a different way from when you just send them an Excel file, for example, or send them a finalized map. So these are web applications where they can see their intervention zones more clearly, or else see a phenomenon over time and space. So you can imagine trying to evaluate the accessibility to services that a population might have. So how long it takes to actually go by foot or by road to the closest health facility. So this is our second pole. And our third pole is the one I'm in charge of. It's the mobile data collection pole, which corresponds to all the different ways that there can be of collecting data in a more efficient manner using mobile technology. So as an example, I can mention if a humanitarian organization has done a distribution of seeds in a food security context, you might want to actually do a survey right after the distribution, and maybe also a few months after, to make sure that the people that were reached, the beneficiaries, are actually satisfied with how the distribution occurred, what they received, that it really corresponded to their needs. So we actually work with 5 types of organizations. The first type are international organizations, such as the United Nations. Our historical partner is UNHCR, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, that we've supported since CartONG's creation. The second type of organizations are international NGOs. of whom our biggest representative is Doctors Without Borders, but we work with many organizations such as the Swiss child protection NGO Terre des Hommes, Solidarité International, Handicap International, Action Against Hunger, and other such organizations. The third type of organizations are local associations that we support a lot through our volunteer or OpenStreetMap team, helping build their skills and trying to transfer as much as possible our knowledge to them. We then also support other humanitarian to humanitarian organizations like ourselves. For example, the Bioforce Training Institute for Humanitarians, which is based in Lyon, in which we've intervened for a number of years to raise awareness on the different types of tools and processes that composes information management. And finally, we also have some projects directly with donors, so donors funding us to run our projects. So CartONG is composed both of a staff team and a volunteer team. So right now we're approximately 25 staff. The association has grown quite a bit in the past 2-3 years. So they work with our biggest partners mostly. Then we also have around 50 active volunteers who help on a number of different aspects. It can either be running events such as mapping parties or mapathons as we call them, but also supporting small associations in the field, and sometimes supporting staff projects to favor dissemination of material, so by helping translating or designing nice documents that can be shared more widely with the sector. Maybe first to clarify what type of support we do, we're sort of organized with 4 different types of support. It can either be strategical support to organizations' headquarters, helping them think out their strategy or their scale up of a given tool or methodology. We also help in both knowledge and capacity building, so with a lot of studies to help support that decision making, a lot of tutorial production, a lot of documentation, training materials, so a lot of training webinars, hotlines also to help support the good implementation of the tools and procedures and methods that we promote. And lastly, direct support to the field, so helping either pilot a new tool, a lot of implementation of tools in the field. So all of these different types of services are managed in very various ways. So we usually, of course, always start by evaluating the needs to make sure that our response is the most adequate. And it's happened in the past that we've told a partner that it might not be a good idea to run the project because the context doesn't make it feasible or easy to implement. So after this needs analysis, we then look at what are the different options, what are the tools that can answer, or the methods, and then we actually implement the project. But obviously it's very different between just making a map for a partner or else maintaining the infrastructure of a map portal for a partner. So every time we adapt to our partner's needs to make sure that the most efficient response is given, because we're in a very difficult sector in terms of budgets and resources, so we always need to take that into account. So unfortunately, we have very little donor direct funding, which is something we're trying to increase, because it also helps us support the sector at large more adequately. So most of our projects are financed directly by our partners, who either through multi-year partnerships, like we have, for example, with MSF over 2 or 3 years, but this can go right to like a 2-day training for another partner that just needs us to intervene to for example, sensitize their project coordinators on what mobile data collection can do. So where, yet again, we just adapt to what NGOs need and want,